We have the latest on the WWE power struggle between Vince McMahon and Triple H. Plus, a title match and a classic gimmick match has been confirmed for Impact Slammiversary, and the AEW Forbidden Door match finish that was changed mid-match. It's all in the wrestling news right now. If you're missing Succession, just follow WWE behind the scenes. It's pretty much the sequel that everybody needed. So much going on, boss, between everyone behind the curtain.
It's all an absolute mess, isn't it? People don't seem very happy. Obviously, Vince is back. He's very involved on the creative side of things. And we got an update from the Wrestling Observer saying it was noted that Vince is aware that everyone in the company, including the big three, Nick Khan, Paul Levesque and Stephanie McMahon, all operated for months with the idea that he would never be back. When he told them he wanted back, they did not support him at first until he made it clear that he was coming back. It's noted that Vince believes he understands the business and is doing what he thinks is the best thing. As one person close to the situation noted, he believes in what he says. Is he wrong all the time? No, actually he's not. He's actually got better input than most would believe. Is it all good? No. He's stuck on certain mindsets that are long gone, and it could be damaging. It's not the interference itself that's the problem, it's how and when he does it. So they give an update on when things are getting changed. So we hear a lot about this. Most weeks now, we hear like 3-4 hours before the show. Raw or SmackDown, Vince will make big changes. And this report goes on to say, it was noted that if he delivered all his input on Thursday night for SmackDown, or even Friday morning, or Sunday night for Raw, or even Monday morning, it would be different. Making all these changes 3 or 4 hours before the show goes on the air throws everything into the chaos that it has been as of late.
That's the big thing, is that they are last minute changes.
Yeah, it must be a nightmare. I think it's an unprofessional thing to do. He's in charge. Part of me thinks that nobody understands Vince McMahon's mind, and this is pure
I don't think even
speculation.
Vince McMahon understands Vince McMahon's mind.
But I think he might like it that way. I think it's quite an intentional thing. He's got time to do it, right? I think he's probably looked over it Sunday night, and it's an intentional thing to see how well people work under pressure. But that's guesswork. That's just my interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly one way of looking at it. Like, he likes being Vince McMeddler because he likes to put to really give everybody the squeeze and see how they do.
Yeah, it's a good power thing.
Yeah, I can't help but feel like it's a control thing a little bit. And sometimes maybe you get to greatidealastminute.com and just goes, well, I have to trust my instinct on this, and that's what we do.
Totally happens, but it's every week, isn't it, seemingly? I
just feel like if it's like a demonstration of authority, that I think, to do that against the greater good that is the show seems silly.
It does seem silly.
What do we know, though? Hey,
exactly. We're not backstage, are we?
No,
not yet.
This news video was completely different 30 seconds before. So, what do we know? I was going to talk to you about Seth Rollins loving a bit of Bovril. Did you see that? He did a snack attack video. He loves Bovril.
Does he?
He loves Bovril.
Monster.
Now, judging for that if you wish. Now, last night, Impact Wrestling, we're building to Slammiversary. New matches announced for it. We're going to see an Ultimate X match making its return. Love a bit of Ultimate X. Mike Bailey, Jonathan Gresham, Kushida, Kevin Knight, and Angels all competing for future X Division title shots. I always enjoyed an Ultimate X match.
Fantastic match.
Yeah.
Brilliant match. We're just working on 10 unbelievable TNA spots list at the moment, and it was such a pleasure going back and seeing, and there's a lot from the X Division in there as well, on Ultimate X, and it was so cool reliving some of that stuff, and it's got me watching some of the early TNA stuff again, and it was a really brilliant time to be a TNA fan at that point, because everything felt so fresh, so hot, loads of great names on there. But yeah, looking forward to that one.
Always good to see. One of the competitors in this match is Speedball Mike Bailey. He's on Desert Island Grabs on Wednesday. Have a nice chat with Speedball Mike about all sorts of stuff. Come and join us for that. The X Division title, which they are competing for a shot at, will be defended at Slammiversary. Chris Sabin facing Leo Rush, who is back once again with the ill behaviour. He made a save for Nick Aldis, who was in a brawl with Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. And Chris Sabin says, I'm going to let you jump to the front of the queue, Leo Rush, and you can have a title shot on July 15th.
He comes and goes.
Yes,
he's wrestling at the moment.
Like the warts on my bottom. He comes and goes. I'm not saying for a second that he's a wart on my bottom, but he's certainly a wart on Chris Sabin's bottom at the moment. But I'm big. I like Lio Rush.
Oh, man, he's amazing in the ring.
He's so good.
Hell of a talker. Him and Lashley together, I think, were gold. I think if you watch some of that stuff back, it was like, oh, they could have gone a lot further with that, you know?
I'm a Detroit Red Wings fans in the house. If so, you'll like this. That's you.
Yeah.
Former Stanley Cup champion Darren McCarty is returning to Impact. Last time we saw him, he was being put through a table by Bully Ray.
That guy. Yep, all right. I was lost.
I had him at Stanley Cup champion. I went to school with a kid called Stanley Cup. Darren McCarty is going to be the enforcer for the tag match. It's going to see Bully Ray and Steve Macklin facing PCO and Scott D'Amore. The father of the Canadian destroyer, Scott D'Amore. He did a banger of one the other week.
Do you want my analysis on
I
Darren
would
McCarty?
love your analysis.
You got to sign up to Patreon for that. There's a big Darren McCarty podcast that I host. It's a weekly thing. You might have missed that.
Oh, no, the McCarty Party. I listen every week.
That's so good. We need to do that now. The name's everything. I need to learn who Darren McCarty is.
That's the first episode. Yeah. Who is Darren McCarty? Oh, he's going to come for us, isn't he? And it's all right. We'll put him through a table again. Also confirmed for Slammiversary, the Knockouts champion Deonna Purrazzo is going to be facing Trinity. Impact Tag Champs ABC facing Sami Callihan and Rich Swann, and Brian Myers and Moose and Subculture.
Nice.
Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews.
Great to see them doing stuff, isn't it?
Always a deep joy to see them back on the scene. And the Impact World Champion Alex Shelley defends against Nick Aldis.
Who you got for that one?
Now, there's part of me that thinks that Nick Aldis might sort of take the belt and then this is kind of his time. I personally don't think that I think Nick Aldis is there for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah.
So I think this is more an establishment of Alex Shelley as the top guy, I think.
Beat a proper pro, a vet,
yeah,
and everything. And Alex Shelley hasn't held that title for very long at all. There's part of me that wants to see Nick Aldis take the title and do what he did in NWA and just make it feel like a really, really big deal once again, because he elevated that title. I know that sounds daft to say it's the NWA title, one of the most prestigious in the history of our sport and everything, but he really did make that feel especially special during his reign with it. And then Tyrus rather just did that even more. Sorry, carry on.
Tyrus.
Murdoch was great. Trevor Murdoch was the boy.
Slammiversary, July 15th. It's an interesting one because normally this is where Impact will lean on some of their legacy. We've done quite a few videos in the past of temperature checks for who's coming in and who's going out. And this year, not so much. There's no rumors of any major debuts, nor is there any sort of celebration of TNA history here. I think it's just I'm not saying it in a dig, but it's just a show. But it's more sort of embedded and imbued in the present rather than in the past or the future.
I think that's good. I don't think you need to rely on these video packages that tease an ex-WWE star and teasing every name under the sun. For it, let's focus on the now. And TNA has Impact has a really great roster, and I think the card speaks for itself in this case. I don't think you need that.
It writes itself. We'll end on a bit from Forbidden Door on Sunday. Banger of a main event between Bryan Danielson and Kazuchika Okada. One that saw Bryan Danielson work for an additional 10 minutes with an injury, and consequently, this changed the finish, didn't it?
Bloke's a nutter. We've all seen the X-ray by now, but serious props. That is insane. So, according to the Wrestling Observer, the finish was to be Danielson winning via submission with a label lock, but he did a different type of submission because of the arm injury. Obviously, twisted him around like a pretzel as a variation. Dave Meltzer said that Bryan didn't communicate the nature of his injury, possibly because he didn't know how bad it was, as if he did, they would have called the match off early. So he wanted to crack on with it. It was a dream match for him. It was a dream match for us. I think it was excellent. A lot of people I've seen saying, it just didn't live up to the hype. And I loved it. I thought it was a great technical outing for the two of them. Very, very different from the other match of the night for sure. In fact, the match of the night really was Kenny and Will. But I think it was great. And knowing what we know now, Bryan Danielson is a machine. That is absolutely
Daniel, you're a star.
It's just
in the face of the sky.
To do what he did, and it was still super physical. And now we've seen the X-ray, and it's like over there.
You could put a Gus in that, couldn't you? It was
What
ridiculous.
a guy.
What?
Seriously. What a performance.
What was interesting was because obviously the change of the finish hadn't been communicated to commentary, they were quite low key when the submission was being applied. So then the tap out came as like a mega shock.
Yeah.
So it actually weirdly played in quite nicely.
But can you imagine, had the commentary known about it, and they could have played up the fact that Daniel Bryan's, I keep saying that, Bryan Danielson's arm was broken. How, would that have made it something else? No, because everybody would have been just saying, no, the match should have stopped. I'm glad it continued. That seems a horrible thing to say because the bloke was hurt and everything. But the fact that he gave the performance that he did, given the situation that he was in, massive props to Bridie.
What a guy. You are a star. And for the latest wrestling news throughout the day, check out cultaholic.com. This weekend, it's all about Money in the Bank. Ross and Fraser currently in that there London. I believe by now, Ross will have been in the same room, breathing the same air as LA Knight.
Correct.
Which I believe will change the atmosphere somewhat across the planet. They're at SmackDown tonight. They're at Money in the Bank tomorrow. And you are doing live reactions with Andrew Hodgkinson.
Correct. Loads of stuff coming
I
up.
say it that way.
Loads of Money in the Bank content coming out over the weekend, obviously. But then we got extra stuff coming on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday as well. So stay tuned to the channel.
Lots of good things. Stay safe as well. Love you. Bye.